Hey everyone, welcome to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 2023 Martin Luther King Jr. Day virtual celebration. My name is Mandy Smith and I'm the Director of Education here at the Rock Hall, which means it's my job to teach about, talk about, write about, research, and listen to the greatest music of all time. I'd like to thank the John P. Murphy Foundation for their support of MLK Day and all of our other Rock the Block community days. You can look forward to other community engagement days throughout the year that provide impactful educational programming through increased collaboration with our great community partners. Today, we are celebrating the contributions of our 2022 inductees, highlighting the Black artists who used their platform as musicians, producers, and record label owners to speak out for their community, for equality, and for social justice. Here's a highlight of footage from the induction ceremony held on November 5th, 2022 in Los Angeles.
Let's kick it off!
It's a beautiful day for heavy metal, that's for sure.
Yes, it is.
I'm rocking it. Simon?
He talks about you in his sleep. There's nothing I can do to keep from crying when he calls your name, Jolene. And I can easily understand. I can easily take my marriage. You don't know what it means to me, Jolene.
I gotta say, I had the opportunity to be in the audience that night and it was magical. So many once-in-a-lifetime performances. In addition to footage from this year's ceremony, today's show features past performances from previous induction ceremonies and annual Music Masters programs, as well as an artifact spotlight from right here in our 2022 inductee exhibit. For a deeper dive on inductees and more, check out our Rock Hall EDU platform, where teachers, parents, and guardians can access free materials for teaching and engaging their students. There, you can access Rock Hall exclusive content, everything from lesson plans and activities to videos and playlists created by our education team. Sign up for your free account today at rockhall.com/education. We even curated a collection of materials to celebrate Dr. King's legacy. In that collection, you can find activities for kids of all ages, where they can create their own protest sign or think deeply about what their dreams are for a better future. Let's check out a video from that collection. Here's Sule Holder from our curatorial team talking about the man we honor today, Martin Luther King Jr., and his relationship to gospel, one of the roots of rock and roll.
Even though the civil rights movement occurred during the 1960s, a lot of its roots could be traced back to the Black church and especially gospel music. It is almost impossible to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. without his relation to gospel music and gospel artists, such as Mahalia Jackson, Aretha Franklin, and even Sam Cooke. Gospel songs and Negro spirituals also became the backbone of the civil rights movement. Many of the iconic songs performed during Dr. Martin Luther King's March on Washington actually had their basis in gospel music. Songs like We Shall Overcome became the soundtrack of the civil rights movement and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
I always enjoy learning from Sule about our collection and the artists that we celebrate. He has so many amazing stories to tell. For our first 2022 inductee, we celebrate James Jimmy Jam Harris III and Terry Lewis. They received the Award for Musical Excellence, given to artists, musicians, songwriters, and producers whose originality and influence have had a dramatic impact on music. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are known for their studio magic, creating smooth, funky, synth-laden grooves, as well as for their signature style, those dark sunglasses, black suits, and black fedora hats. They created a production company, recording studio, and a signature sound responsible for making an artist's career. Artists that include everyone from Human League to Mary J. Blige to Usher. Here's the induction reel for Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
3, 2, 1.
Growing up, every song that came on the radio was a Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis production. So their sound was just anything that was hot.
When I met Jimmy and Terry, we clicked instantly. They understood me, and they were able to help me find my voice.
And I've been totally influenced by Jimmy and Terry and the records they've done since forever. It's like their songs been the soundtrack to my life.
Back when we started and we told everybody we wanted to be producers, everybody said, why? You guys are in a band, The Time. You guys are famous. More so than being fans of certain artists, we were fans of certain writers and producers. So we said if we ever had a chance to do that, that's the end of it we'd like to be in.
Okay, this is like our Hall of Fame. We start with the origins, of course, The Time, to our newer stuff, the Patty Austin, Robert Palmer, so on and so forth. The list goes on and on. And of course, Janet Jackson.
We had an idea that we could produce Janet in a way that she hadn't been produced before. Janet had way more attitude than what we had previously heard.
It was apparent that nobody had really asked her opinion about what she wanted to sing about. We wanted her to make her record. It was like a revelation to her.
There's a magic that I feel that the three of us have together, and as it comes through, Jimmy, I'm gonna kill you.
I think the Jam and Lewis sound is the sound of the artist sounding their best. We always looked at it like we were tailors making a suit for somebody.
We're desperately trying to get an album together, so we'd written, say, about 13 tracks.
And the stuff we were doing just wasn't quite making it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as Jimmy and Terry could make it. So I thought we'd go and do it again in Minneapolis.
The genius thing in that was Terry wrote the line and had the girls say, while we were apart, I was human too. And that was the line that sealed the deal.
While we were apart, I was human too.
Human League #1 and Janet Jackson #1. What's the Jam and Lewis secret?
It's not really a secret. I think the people that we work with have done justice to what we do.
There is nothing in my entire career, really, in terms of anything creative anyway, that I ever delegate. And working with Jimmy and Terry, I basically just let them take my vocal and remake the track.
They only want from you your truth, your story. What do you have to say?
One day I woke up and was like, okay, I'm gonna get my life together. And by the grace of God, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis wrote me this record. It was like they was looking into my life.
I don't wanna cry no more, yeah. No more pain, no more pain. Tired of falling, tired of you playing games all the time with my mind. No more, no more, no more.
The greatest part about the journey is just the life that you live in between and the people that you meet along the way.
It's daunting to see just how many artists had careers who were influenced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. But one musician stands out among their career, Janet Jackson. Their collaboration on albums like Control and Rhythm Nation 1814 ushered in the New Jack Swing sound by refining Jam and Lewis's songwriting and production into a killer counterpart to Janet's lyrical and melodic mastery. It's fitting that she inducted the pair that night in New York. It's even more fitting that she styled her hair to match the powerful imagery from the Control album cover. Here's Janet Jackson inducting Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
As everybody knows, I grew up with no shortage of big brothers to look up to, and I had a father who inspired and encouraged me. But my extended brothers and closest artistic collaborators are Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. I remember the first time we met, they were members of one of my all-time favorite bands, The Time. It was love at first sight, and I feel like we broke through the music industry together. They taught me so much, and I learned their lessons well. When I went to work on what became Control with Jimmy and Terry in their hometown of Minneapolis, there was no pressure, and we felt like we were kids in a sandbox. I was just, 18, 19 years old, and no one was paying attention to us. No record company executives were at the studio. We talked and laughed so much that sometimes it felt like we weren't even making a record, until they showed me a lyric idea they had started. When I was 17, I did what people told me. Did what my father said and let my mother mold me. I realized that those lyrics came directly from our conversations, which excited me because no one had ever asked me what I wanted to talk about. I had a million ideas, and Jimmy and Terry encouraged me to write them down. To them, I was a singer, I was a songwriter, I was a performer, I was a young woman, and an artist with a story to tell. And that's why we have continued to work together to this day, almost 40 years later. That's a long time. What I like most about them is they understand that making music is not just about following the trends or chasing the latest sound or watching the charts. It's about saying what you truly feel and expressing it in a way that fans can enjoy and appreciate. I'm not the only artist that Jimmy and Terry have worked with. I'm just their favorite. The list of artists they've collaborated with reads like a who's who of the popular music over the last 4 decades. Let's see, Mary J. Blige, Aretha Franklin, Mariah Carey, Lionel Richie, George Michael, Boyz II Men, Usher, my brother Michael. To Jimmy and Terry, production is ultimately an act of love. And as you continue to work with them, that love grows.
The inductor speeches are one of my favorite parts of each ceremony. Jackson stood out that night as being heartfelt, knowledgeable, intimate, and even funny. Next up, we celebrate the oldest living person to be inducted into the Rock Hall, Harry Belafonte. He received the Early Influence Award, given to artists whose music and performance style have directly influenced and evolved rock and roll. Drawing from several musical traditions, Harry Belafonte's lyrical baritone and emotive singing connected Americans to Black world culture. Singer, activist, producer, actor, and ally, Harry Belafonte used the arts as a mechanism to affect social change on a global scale. He was a close friend and ally of Martin Luther King Jr. throughout the civil rights movement, even bailing him out of jail after King wrote his famous Letter from Birmingham Jail. At the age of 95, Belafonte has epitomized the life of a world citizen, living by a single truth. Quote, "Get them to sing your song, and they will want to know who you are. And if they've made that first step, we can find a solution to hate." Let's watch this reel from our induction ceremony about the career and significance of Harry Belafonte.
Sometimes the good Lord accepts his own perfection and closes his eyes and goes ahead and he makes himself a man. Sometimes that man gets hold of the idea of what it is possible for him to do. So you look at him and be thankful that the Lord let such a man touch our lives.
Shake, 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 Sinora, shake your body liner.
This beautiful black man who was not only warming our hearts with the music, but warming our hearts with his persona, warming our hearts with his elegance, singing these songs, and it gave everybody something to aspire to be.
What a lot of people don't know is that music is really an accident in my life. Well, I started off as a student of the theater.
Sounds of laughter everywhere, and the dancing girls swing to and
first time I ever started singing for the public was in a play.
When that cold, cold sun goes down. A lot of the little nightclubs in Greenwich Village was around, and I could go down and see Bill Brunsey and Leadbelly, and there was an inherent drama to the material. And I just felt that that was the character of what I should be doing, and then I developed this act.
When you hear that all over the world to this day in 2022, the whole world sings that song.
Here was a song about struggle, about black people and doing the most grueling work, and I took that song and honed it into an anthem.
Mr. Tallyman, Tallymabana.
This RCA Victor long claim gold record for being the first performer to sell over 1 million copies of a single album.
Everybody, Matilda, sing the chorus, Matilda.
Here's one of the great artists of the world, Harry Belafonte.
I don't understand how they pursue art and not have a social and a human consciousness. For me, all great art does that.
Well, I wish I could say all the things that I could say.
There are other dimensions to me than what I have been able to contribute just musically.
He spoke truth to power. He was able to do something for us that not only our race benefited from, but the whole world benefited from and continues to benefit from today.
Peace, order, peace, order.
Artists are the gatekeepers of truth. The purpose of art is to show life not as it is, but to show life as it should be.
There be peace on earth.
Thank you, sir.
You can really see Belafonte's global and political influence throughout that video. Let's check out a special artifact from our Harry Belafonte case in our 2022 inductees exhibit, a bust of him called the Patriot. Singer Tony Bennett commissioned the bust for Belafonte's birthday in 2017, saying, "He has been such a dear friend and inspiration to me for so many decades that I sculpted this bust of him and called it the Patriot." Bennett and Belafonte were longtime friends and even marched from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama together in 1965 to protest for civil rights. The Rock Hall held several annual Music Masters programs that honored an inductee for their immense impact on rock and roll, with an entire week of events culminating in a tribute concert. In 2004, we honored folk blues legend Leadbelly, and Harry Belafonte stopped by to give a speech about his hero. In this clip, Belafonte tells the story of his own early career and of Leadbelly's influence.
During the Second World War, I served in the United States Navy as a munitions loader. And at the end of that war, when I returned home, I was caught, like millions of other young men and women, with the question of where would I go with my life and what would I do? The question was most horrifying in a way because I had no skills. I was a high school dropout, and I came ill-prepared to meet the post-World War world, to get involved in some lofty occupation, to do something that would have pleased my mother's hope that I would have gone through the university, gotten a degree, and become a doctor or a lawyer or a plumber. Anything that would help bring economic resource and help the family, since I was the oldest of the children, to lift us out of the abyss of poverty. In this journey of looking for where to go and what to do, I was accompanied also with a great sense of concern about the way in which peoples of color were being treated in America. We believed in democracy and the great fight to end racial supremacy and to open up the democratic institutions and thoughts and ideas and places, to give us a level playing field. But that was not the generosity that awaited us when we came back to our America. Segregation was more deeply rooted than ever, and groups all over this nation fiercely fought to not only enhance the institutions of segregation, but wreaked havoc among its citizens of color to let us know that business would continue as usual. And we who did not accept that concept found ourselves in a place of great concern and in a place of great anger. And as we were looking about what to do, it was a series of coincidences that led me into the world of the performing arts. As a janitor's assistant, I was given 2 tickets as a gratuity for a repair that I had done in an apartment. And those tickets led me to a black theater in Harlem called the American Negro Theater, and for the first time, I saw a play. I had no relationships to theater. I knew vaudeville halls. I hung out at the Apollo Theater. I'd been to a couple of nightclubs, but I'd never been to the theater. And in this play, I not only saw language and poetry that consumed me in its moment, but I saw the men and women who performed, and I saw in them purpose. And I wanted very much to be a part of who and what they were and what they represented. And in this course of, in this new adventure, I wound up going, not only getting involved with the theater, but then going to the New School of Social Research and part of a theater group that set me on the course of study that had a lot to do with social and political art. It was the code of the day, because hardly a person of note, whether the person be painter, writer, dancer, singer, almost all of it was smitten with a deep sense of social responsibility. And the great writers of America, Steinbeck and Hemingway and Faulkner and Robert Penn Warren and Langston Hughes and on, Richard Wright, all of them spoke to social art and the social questions of the day. And it was in this world that I saw my opportunity, not only in a place where I could vent anger at the loss of America's generosity to us who were seeking to be part of the great society, but also to be able to speak in behalf of our experiences in the world from which we came, with Clifford Odets and others. And there were painters, and there was Black Renaissance, and there was so much going on that was enriching. When it came my turn to find my way, I could not find work because as much as culture and art were the most democratic of institutions and places in which to be, it still had its racial divide. And as a young actor, I could not find work. And as I wondered where to go and what to do, a friend who had heard me sing in a play at the theater, it was a play written by John Steinbeck of Mice and Men. And in this great piece of social theater, they had created a character who was somewhat mysterious, and he wandered through the play and through the set, and he began to sing songs that helped not only the transition of scenes, but helped set the tone behind the art that was being acted by the players. And I was given that task as an actor to sing these songs. And the songs were selected from 2 of America's greatest folk artists, Leadbelly and the great Woody Guthrie. And to stand on that stage and to sing those songs each night, I had no idea that I would become a singer. As a matter of fact, it was the least of my ambitions. But this moment as an actor gave me a revelation in the power of song. And when I left my period of study and went on to perform in jazz nightclubs because one of the musicians saw me in the play and said, "Come on, learn a few songs, become an intermission singer, and make a few bucks while you're pursuing your interest in theater. I did that, and that was short-lived. I went on to go to places where other artists performed. And in the Village Vanguard in New York City, in the basement, a little bistro, I walked in one night out of curiosity because I found that it was a place where folk artists seemed to visit with some regularity. And it was in this place that I first saw Leadbelly, a man who was stunning in his appearance. His hair was completely white. The intensity of his eyes and the intensity of his art consumed me. And I watched him several nights in a row, listening to his songs about the plight of color, the plight of the poor, and the plight of incarceration. In his songs, I found the center to my own soul in the arts. And I decided that I would, if fate would be kind, develop a repertoire of songs that were rooted in the folk tradition of not only America, but in other parts of the world. The idea that I should have been a singer, for a lot of people, carried some humor. I always said that God had a great sense of humor. He says, I'm going to make you a singer, but wait till you see the voice I give you. But thanks to Leadbelly and the way he sang, I knew that one didn't have to be a Pavarotti in order to be able to capture attention and to please the listener. And even more importantly, it was to have a song that had content and said something that moved people not only to think about the world in which they lived and the people around them, but to go deeply into their own inner places for ideas and thoughts that might illuminate and help give us relief and release. Such was the case for me. Leadbelly and the songs of the Chain Gang, Leadbelly and the folk songs that he wrote, Leadbelly and the children's songs, all that he did became the place from which I was able to reap a great harvest in the making of my own art and culture. What a great moment for me that there should have been Leadbelly. What a great moment for me that there should have been Woody Guthrie. And how fortunate that right on the heels of that, I should have become acquainted with and to develop a deep and abiding friendship with Pete Seeger and with so many of the period who were rooted in the folk art. For me, it has been a great, wonderful, and powerful journey. Art in the use of the service of mankind is art at its best. Paul Robeson once said, the purpose of art is not just to show life as it is, but to show life as it should be.
Finally, we celebrate Sylvia Robinson, the first woman inducted into the Rock Hall for her entrepreneurship, and the first woman of color to receive the Ahmet Ertegun Award, given to non-performing industry professionals who've had a major influence on the creative development of rock and roll. As an artist, songwriter, producer, record label owner, and CEO, Robinson was the original hip-hop mogul. She laid the foundation for rap to flourish into the most lucrative music genre of today by co-founding Sugar Hill Records, where she, as the main creative force behind the label, spearheaded nearly every significant innovation in the first wave of recorded hip-hop. Here's the induction reel spotlighting Sylvia Robinson's impact on the music industry.
I never knew anything about rap. And I saw this DJ playing music, and he was saying things to the kids, and they would answer him back. You put a concept like that on record, and you go to the moon.
Early hip-hop was a machine. It required DJs, it required dancers, it required rappers. When Sylvia Robinson went out and said, you can make a record of this stuff, kids weren't thinking about that.
Rap on record was completely revolutionary. It took Sylvia Robinson to make it happen. Not only did she conceive of making a rap record, but she also assembled her own rap group.
I put Sugar Hill Gang together. They didn't know each other.
I said the hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rock.
Sylvia Robinson and Rappers Alike captured 1979 like no other.
What you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat.
This changed the game of hip hop. This record just set the goal to a whole nother level now. It wasn't rule the Bronx or rule Manhattan. It was now, how soon can you make a record?
It's the joint.
She got these other groups because she felt that rap was here to stay.
The Sugar Hill Record Company is a family-owned business. Joe Robinson Sr. is the president of the company. Wife Sylvia Robinson is one of the most sought-after, respected producers in the industry.
I had the message 2 years before I ever met them. And I said, I have a song here. If you do this, it will make you bigger than you've ever been.
How I keep from going under.
She would play this tape for us. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
Broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the stage, you know they just don't care.
The lyrics were dark.
Got no money to move out, I guess I got no choice.
It was like finally somebody's telling the world how we live and what we're going through.
I knew the message would work because of the story. Most people living in the ghetto, that's their story of their life.
The concept shifted the paradigm of what types of records would be made and what kinds of things could be talked about.
Vision, dreams of passion.
It was like a real bold step into taking this music and making it legitimate.
She pioneered something that was deemed impossible. She knew it all, and why not do it all?
Being able to come up with a concept when it sells, then you know you have a great piece of product.
Sylvia, on the scene, better known as the rapping queen, the queen of Sugar Hill.
In the story of Sugar Hill Records, Sylvia Robinson assembled the Sugar Hill Gang into a group and produced the first major hip-hop hit, Rapper's Delight. She signed Sequence, the first all-woman and first Southern hip-hop group to record commercially. She co-produced the first hip-hop track that featured turntable techniques, the adventures of Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel. But perhaps her greatest contribution was convincing a hesitant Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five to record The Message, the song that became the blueprint for both socially conscious hip-hop and for gangsta rap. When Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five became the first hip-hop group ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2007, they performed this seminal track at the ceremony. Let's check it out.
Oh, put your hands up, come on, come on, put your hands up, come on, put your hands up, put your hands up, come on, put your hands up, put your hands up, come on, somebody say ho, ho. Now everybody scream. Everybody wave your hand from side to side like this here, side to side, side to side. You like to thank the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for having us in here. Now somebody say hey, say ho. Now everybody scream. Dig up. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes you wonder how I keep them going under. Let's get ready to slide though. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes you wonder. Slide this way. Come on, y'all. Slide, slide. Slide, 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 slide. This way. Slide. Hey, now everybody scream. We got broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the stage, you know they just don't care. I can't take the smell, can't take the noise. Got no money to move out, I guess I got no choice. We get rats in the front room, roaches in the back, junkies in the alley with a baseball bat. Tried to get away, but I couldn't get far. Cause a man walked to the people said, stop, come on. Yo, don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes you wonder how I keep them going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes you wonder how I keep them going under.
I hope you enjoyed all these impactful performances, speeches, artifact spotlights, and education materials today. I want to remind you to check out our Rock Hall EDU online portal at rockhall.com/education, where you'll find our MLK Day collection and hundreds of other assets to help you teach through the power of rock and roll. A big thanks once again to the John P. Murphy Foundation for making this program possible. And thanks to all of you at home for tuning in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's Martin Luther King Day virtual celebration.